welcome to Trust Your Glitter podcast. This is Christy, and I am here to talk about the astrology of November 19th through the 26th. I know we are heading into a holiday week in the United States, and it is one of the most chaotic holiday weeks for the U.S. For those outside the U.S., I want to say a shout out, and I hope you have a lot of blessings ahead, especially as we are heading into a new astrological season this week, but also acknowledging the chaos in the U.S. that is Thanksgiving. So for those who are feeling the feels at this holiday time, I just want to acknowledge that we also are leaving a very intense eclipse season, and last week we had a very revealing new moon in the sign of Scorpio with a very curveball throwing opposition to Uranus and a very feisty conjunction to Mars with the sun in Scorpio. So it was a lot, and it also might have shown a lot of anger regarding certain subjects in our lives. And I think this week is going to bring us some perspective as we head into Sagittarius season on the 22nd. So Sagittarius season does bring us to a higher vantage point, and acknowledging that the asteroid Pallas Athena brings us wisdom on the 19th as Pallas Athena enters the sign of Scorpio. We're not fully out of the woods with planets and asteroids traveling through Scorpio, so we're still going to have many of these lessons that are very psychological in nature follow us through the end of 2023 into 2024. And I also want to say the 20th brings us a waxing quarter moon in Aquarius at 27 degrees. That is a first quarter moon. That is the moon in between the new moon and the full moon. So as we're preparing this week to head into a full moon cycle next week, this is a time where we're going to be asked to adjust our goals and our intentions and be tested on these goals and intentions from that Scorpio new moon. And it's the moon that keeps on giving, because it was a new moon with overt emotional tones. It really brought us that, oh my God, I didn't know that before I entered this week, and now you do. So there could be something where an upheaval, an argument, something came out of the woodwork for you to really see and contemplate. It could even be through, if you're in therapy or if you're in a friendship circle, something came through that you are dealing with. And in order for you to kind of solve the issues, because on the 22nd, we enter Sagittarius season, fire sign. So we're going from a steamy water sign of Scorpio that really wants us to go through this rebirthing process into Sagittarius, which really wants us to have a beautiful time, surrounded by love and gratitude, which I do think it's very symbolic that Thanksgiving is usually around the mark of Sagittarius season, representing that jovial gift of community. And so the 22nd is a change. And we had Mercury enter Sagittarius very recently. And now as the sun enters Sagittarius, I want to say happy birthday to all the Sages out there, all the Centaurs out there. But I also want to say, with this seasonal change, we're also going to be asked these big fundamental questions, these more philosophical questions, these more, poetic questions of how do we direct this knowledge now that we've received these clear downloads, these clear truths, these things that really wanted to uncover themselves in our lives. And it could even be you just were journaling something out and had a realization or an aha moment of like, oh my gosh, this pattern should not happen again. The first quarter moon is such a symbolic moon because in Aquarius, this is like a detachment from the emotions of the situation and really looking at things matter-of-factly. And that's what air sign energy does. Aquarius is an air sign and wants to solve problems and is not afraid to mince words, and neither is Sagittarius. So I think it's, the 20th, there can be a little coldness and abruptness, for those who have had to set boundaries and say, like, I'm not doing Thanksgiving, I'm not doing the holidays the way I've done in the past. That is what this week is all about. And we are given a lot of symbolism this week in general. And I think it's synchronistic that it's during the week of Thanksgiving that we're going to get a lot of these lessons of setting boundaries. Sagittarius is a fire sign that does not do well with boundaries because Sagittarius represents like vast lands, that international travel, that really that lust for knowledge, that lust for understanding, different cultures, different communities, really wanting to bring people together, really wanting to bring it all home through us all being each other's home. And at the same time, we're going to have some facing the truth, facing what things actually are. And on the 24th, Mars, who, we saw this cazimi last week. A cazimi is when the sun and another planet align. We see kind of this dynamic between Mars and the sun for the next few days. I like that there is a dynamic now with Mars and the sun in Sagittarius. So these energies are actually going to be squaring Saturn in the sign of Pisces. We saw the square when Mercury entered Sagittarius. Again, the lesson is boundaries, and neither Saturn in Pisces nor any planet in Sagittarius wants a boundary. But Saturn, the planet himself, wants a boundary. Pisces wants to dissolve and connect and be one with all. And Sagittarius wants to sit in a bonfire and sing and appreciate art and music and all of the voices at the table. So I think it's very interesting that this square is going on and we have this very chaotic, pivotal holiday week in America that represents a whole other thing. So I want to, acknowledge that this holiday is very complex in the United States. And I also want to acknowledge the amount of trauma that comes with this holiday and also the amount of beauty at the same time. It's very dualistic in nature. And on the 25th, the asteroid Ceres, Ceres, enters the sign of Sagittarius, which is, there is this healing aspect. This is a very holistic asteroid that really wants beauty and harmony. And this can even be in our physical beauty and harmony. This can be, treating our bodies better, eating healthier food, going to a nutritionist, or just really acknowledging a more, just health overall, really looking at things from, is being in this setting healthy for you? Is being around these people healthy for you? What is healthy for you? So I think transit-wise, these aspects are really, really, they're big in a way that we have more lessons on the way. So as, more lessons on the way, 2023 is where it's at. That's what I feel like it's been. But as I look at the aspects, and this is how planets communicate to one another, I'm going to start out also at the top of the week. The sun on the 20th is still in Scorpio, is sextile. So that's in like a friendship dynamic with Pluto and Capricorn. The same day, Mercury, the planet of communication, is trine Chiron. So put a pin in Chiron. because we're going to be looking at Chiron from the communication side of things. And Chiron is the wounded healer. But in more modern day TikTok universe, Chiron is like the black sheep of the family. So if you're listening and you identify as like the outcast in any social circle or black sheep in any community, whether it's your immediate family or at work or in just some sort of situation, this is your week to really, really honor and respect what that new moon in Scorpio was asking you to say no to. So that new moon said, hey, here's a conflict at work. Here's a conflict between siblings. Here's a conflict between extended family members. Here's a conflict that happened. Maybe that conflict had been brewing for decades, a year. Like this is something that you're really being revealed with. Like you're really sitting in the shit of. And so as we're looking at the final days of this solar energy in the sign of rebirth, Scorpio, there is a harmonious, I don't want to say conclusion, because nothing's really concluded in our lives, but there's a harmonious understanding of, okay, you got me there. This got me there. But now I'm going to get myself here. I'm going to take this trauma, because this is Scorpio, it is about evolving through the trauma. This trauma got me to this point out of survival. This way of dealing with it got me to this point out of just sheer needing to put one foot in front of the other. But now there is life to this. And Pluto and the Sun in Scorpio really have this mutual harmony here. Mercury and Chiron. Mercury in the fire sign of Sagittarius, Chiron, who is still retrograde in the fire sign of Aries, want to help us through this. On the 21st, Mars. So I'm going to look at the 20th and 21st as like, it's not distinct. It's meshed, smushed. I don't like how it smushed together kind of energies. It's like a burrito bowl of energy where Mars is sextile Pluto that day. So the 20th, 21st is an emotional burrito bowl. And in fact, it could be a comfort eating day for a lot of people, even before a holiday of eating. So this energy wants us to look at, okay, I figured that out there. I went in, and you might have gone in full force. You might have gone into a challenge. You might have gone into a relationship. You might have gone into, I mean, for me, it's a living situation, full force, where you're like, I am coming at this with my full heart. And I'm learning a lot from it. What did you learn from it? What are you taking away from it? And how do you make it better the next time? How do you take this to the higher perspective, the more spiritual perspective, the more in your energy, in your truth? And Sagittarius is the sign of truth, the storyteller as well. We can also look at Sagittarius as like, Sagittarius wants justice. Sagittarius wants the full truth, hates. If we look at the sign of Sagittarius, Sagittarius absolutely does not like it when people are being harmed or taken advantage of from like the most positive perspective, and wants to inspire others. The other side is like, you know, the shadow aspect is a storyteller can embellish a story, you know, to kind of keep the laughs going, because, you know, Sagittarius wants to laugh through the pain, where Scorpio wants to feel the pain and like deeply like immerse itself in the pain and like, you know. So this week kind of gives us this folding and unfolding aspect. And on the 22nd, same day that the Sun enters Sagittarius, Venus is opposite Chiron. So there's a lot of Chiron aspects this week. with the opposition from Venus to Chiron, I like it. I like it. Not easy, but I like it. It's a challenge. I would say this is a really good day if you are on an exercise regimen to just schedule that workout, schedule that, getting that energy balanced. Venus is in her home sign. She likes to be, I'm going to say something controversial maybe. Venus likes oppositions in the sign of Libra because she is in opposition in the sign of, that's how she balances herself. So when she opposes Chiron on the 22nd, she wants to hear another viewpoint. You know, maybe somebody looks at you and goes, yeah, I hear that you're going through a terrible breakup, but also like, look at it from this perspective. Might not be the perspective you want to hear, but it's definitely the perspective that you need to hear. And that's what that new moon also gave us. Like, yeah, you might have had a reveal, like maybe the reveal was this connection is no longer healthy for you. This route that you're going is no longer the way to go. And that's okay too. These are ending times of the year. These are culminating times of the year. It doesn't mean we don't revisit it. It doesn't mean we didn't plant seeds for the future. It just means in this iteration of yourself, you have to say, okay, let bygones be bygones here on the 22nd. So for those who are celebrating Thanksgiving, it might be you don't want to go. And it's nothing new to say that. Like, you just don't want to be around these motherfuckers. Like, you don't want to be around these people, but you got to go. And you got to, Libra Venus it up, really just social butterfly it, and kind of, sugar gets you by a lot longer than salt, that type of feeling. Put a little extra honey in your tea when you're talking to your Aunt Susie. I don't know. But it's that kind of feeling on the 22nd. And on the 23rd is the exact square between the Sun and Sagittarius and Saturn. So that square takes place on Thanksgiving. This is a day, if you live in the US, again, Pisces loves to dissolve, wants us to be all in one harmony. Sagittarius wants us to be kumbaya in one community. The square is not tough. The square is informative. I honestly want to say, for those who are in situations this year you don't want to be in for the holidays, and this is like extended through Capricorn season, take the observer's tone. Take the let me put on my observer's glasses lens. Let me sit with Venus for a second and really look over at Chiron and be like, yeah, that was a real wound here, but let's observe their reactions. And like, with Sagittarius season, Sagittarius is going to want to like put a little bit of a match, light the spark. I would say, with all the Chiron happening this week, maybe try not to poke the bear, but we are tempted with Sagittarius season to like want to see how somebody's going to react. And on the 23rd, the Sun in Sagittarius is also sesquiquadrate Chiron. So there is tension with Chiron this week. There's oppositions with Chiron this week. There's sextiles with Chiron this week. And what that translates down to is, if people gang up on you, which is possible, especially through paternal sides of families or Saturnic. So if you're like looking at your family lineage chart and you're like, actually Saturn's on the maternal side, if you know that part of your chart and you're like, hey, actually it's expressed through this side of the family. Now, from the broader perspective, looking at Saturn is the paternal side, but it all depends on our personal charts and our family natal charts as well. On the 25th, we have Saturn semi-square Chiron. So again, we have more tension with Chiron. Mars is sesquiquadrate Chiron. So these just translate down to, as basic as I want to say it, the wounded healer in us. The end part of the week is just getting, you've got to make a decision to set a boundary. The 22nd through the 25th, circle these dates, highlight this on your calendar, put this on your notifications. Just, this is where and how the boundary is being shown. This is how it's being revealed. And Mars is square Saturn exactly on that day. So we had Sun square Saturn on the 23rd, and then the exact day Mars is square Saturn is the 25th. Boundary boss the F up. Terry Cole, I don't know if she's a psychologist. Terry Cole has a book about boundary bosses, and this is a good week to listen to any of the stuff Terry Cole has. Mercury is also sesquiquadrate Jupiter on that day. So conversations can have a lot of, again, I'm going to say semi-squares, sesquiquadrates, squares, tension. Tension, friction. There's friction between our minds and what people are doing. There's friction between how we were treated and how we're being treated now. There's friction between the reveals that the lunar cycles have been giving us and the power stance we have to take. And I'm in a class right now where the last 2 weeks we focused on anger and family units. And I thought it was interesting because in the class we were talking about the archer. And in Sagittarius is the archer, the centaur, how the centaur really needs to direct the fight. So the shadow aspect of Sagittarius is it just wants to tackle the fight, and with a smile on a Sagittarius can tear you down in a second with a smile on their face. They can tear you down. They can roast your butt in just 2 seconds and assess your soul. But with the same aspect of that, directing that in a more positive way is what the season is about. But it's going to be exactly what this week wants to really poke at us. And on the 26th, Venus is quincunx Uranus. This is going to lead us into the next day. So I'm going to put a pin in the 26th. And Mercury is trine the North Node in Aries. So Mercury and Sagittarius. So these are actually really good days to just self-care the F out. The 26th is a great day to be honest with somebody, to really be good to yourself, because the quincunx between Venus and Uranus can be a little, again, we're having friction here. Friction between your needs and every other chaotic connections, needs, or wants, or reveals, or, the annoyances that can come with that. We're also going to experience this as we head into next week, because we're going to have a full moon opening up next week. And I'll talk about that more on the next podcast episode. So I want to say thank you so much for listening to Trust Your Glitter podcast. And for those who listen on YouTube, right now, my living situation is no running water or electricity. I took on this challenge. It's very Sagittarian of me. And Sagittarius loves nature. So I just want to say my YouTube videos might be real basic, bare bones, like audio videos for now. I love making the graphic videos, like the graphic art videos that I make. The visualizer videos, but looking at the vision of Sagittarius, my moon is really wanting the perfection, but right now I have to go with the challenges I'm having living with no internet connection or, consistent electricity. So if you're listening to this on YouTube, apologies for the quality of video, but the information is here. And for those who are listening, I'm also doing a $10 3-card messenger or email reading special for the Thanksgiving holiday. So this runs through the whole holiday. And for anybody else who wants longer form readings, I'm doing 10% off all of my readings through the rest of 2023. And you can find all of my information on my Linktree /trustyourglitter. That is Linktree /trustyourglitter. Thank you so much. And for those in the US, happy Thanksgiving. For those outside of the US, I just want to say thank you so much. Also, I'm so grateful that this podcast made chartable in Finland. I'm stoked. Thank you for listening in Finland. Shout out to Finland. Thank you so much and have an amazing week ahead.